Okay. The judge decides that when that prosecutor is not going to be anti-white enough, the judge will just step in and make the anti-white decisions. Folks, this is what I talk about when it comes to nodes of power. And if you're going free, you'll understand what I'm talking about. The anti-whites hold too many nodes of power to recapture our destiny by way of redress to a political system of legality or of fairness or of morality or of ethics. And I read here, judge finds Contra Costa DA's filing practices are racist. Never use that anti-white slur. Dismisses the gang charges in a horrific murder case because, my gosh, let's just go gentle on the bloodthirsty murderers. Martinez, in an unprecedented ruling statewide, all of these unprecedented anti-white things. Have you ever noticed that since you've been born and since we've had like these patriotic content creators and Republican content creators and conservative content creators that aren't exactly very good, and then you've had these otherwise considering themselves alternative content creators, and they've been garbage too, that we have been misled because the totality of our life has been sliding toward unprecedented rulings and decisions and votes and etc. in favor of anti-whiteism. Isn't it about time that we do something different? Well, there is something different. It's called the Go Free Method, and you can be with us on Saturdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for our Going Free show. 4.5 hours of gloriousness, victories that we have incessantly by way of a very simple method that just requires you to use a handful of concepts or more in your lives with your friends, family, and strangers. And you will see in a moment as I go through this exactly how you can be a success instead of a failure, as we have been for the totality of our lived experience. In an unprecedented statewide ruling, California, a Contra Costa judge on Friday dismissed the gang charges against 4 bloodthirsty murderers under the the California Racial Justice Act. Guess what? That'll be the same act that forces you, or something similarly named, that forces you to turn over your automobile, to share your home. And we'll be talking more about these things. I've been predicting that since junior high school. And it's coming to fruition. And the exact words that I've said, coming to fruition all the way since then. The California Racial Justice Act, it's going to be justicing anti-whiteism right down your throat. Dismissed gang charges against 4 men under the California Racial Justice Act, ruling that county prosecutors have disproportionately targeted Black people with sentencing enhancement. Isn't it an enhancement? I mean, should you be punished if more so, or in addition to, or if there is a law that says if you are acting in the midst of a crime as a participant of a gang, that makes your crime worse. And so therefore, because you're doing it as part of an organized effort, make no mistake, they would have no problem applying this and have made no problem applying that sort of enhancements. You mean just the law? Just the law, anti-white judge? Is that what you mean? They have no problem magnifying and amplifying charges against white people. But look here, it says this is sentencing enhancements. Again, it's like, well, you robbed and murdered someone, so the murder is an enhancement, or the robbery is an enhancement to the murder. The murder is an enhancement. You broke the law. If you were doing something in addition to another thing that was illegal, then you should have that charge laid upon you. But this is filing these sentencing enhancements that open the door for longer periods in prison. No shit. You don't say, anti-whites. Well, in a case already under a heavy scrutiny, because 2 of the defendants were directly referenced in, once again, this anti-white slur, racist text messages. By the way, you'll find that they don't cite any of the text messages here, which makes me think that it's not all that bad. Not only that, because I think the author would say, look what they said here, look how horrendous these officers are. Not only that, the 2 officers, one of them is non-white. So in the heresy to anti-whiteism text messages, One of those officers is not white, sent by Antioch police officers who investigated their alleged crimes. The text, part of a much larger scandal involving, and there it is again, heresy to anti-whiteism, alleged civil rights violations, and dozens of impugned officers. So two of those are the ones involved in this case that is under discussion here. Made light of injuring the men. They made light of injuring the men during their arrest and referred to black people in explicitly biased, hateful ways. Well, I wonder, was it the white officer that made these statements, or was it the non-white officer? Did the white officer agree? All white people, though, are going to be faced with the noose of scrutiny. Western civilization norms will be erased as a consequence. And maybe it was negative things that were said about criminals rather than all black people. But hey, if they can take a slur, if they can take a slander and harm a white person or white erase our standards, our expectations for behavior, our norms and law enforcement and the rest, then they'll take that opportunity. Contra Costa Judge David Goldstein, doing nothing to push back on the stereotype, Friday ruling did not take into consideration any of the racist texts. Oh, so they say. It just so happens that the same judge is ruling over the other case as well. Goldstein's based it on a decade of data. Really, there was data. When he called a, quote, what he called a significant statistical disparity, showing that gang charges are more often filed against black people. Well, are black people more often to be in gangs? I just put the question to you. In your life growing up, what groups of people have you experienced more often than not to be gang members? In my experience, it's been non-white people to be more often in gangs. And maybe in my experience, it's been at the top of that, a certain group that they might be discussing here. I don't know. It doesn't mean that all black people are in gangs or all non-white people in gangs. It just means what it means. And so if you were to measure this, folks, if you were to measure this and say, well, more black people have been had charges tacked on as parts of gang or members of gangs in the commission of their crimes, if that's happened more often to black people, then that's wrong, and this balance needs to be corrected. We're then talking about equity, which is anti-white. What is equity and punishment? It means weaker charges, lesser charges, fewer charges, reduced sentencing for non-white offenders who might, like in this case, more often be in gangs in the commission of crimes. And so they'll have to draw it back. What's it mean in education? It means that educational scores have to be changed so that you can reach an equality, an equilibrium among all the different races. It means that entrances into universities or special trade schools, etc., that very expensive private Catholic school, it means that they have to discriminate and persecute white people, discriminate against white people so that they can increase the numbers of non-white people in those environments. What does it mean in employment? It means that white people have to be discriminated against in hiring, in promotions, in banking. It means loans. In businesses, it means loans and licensure. Discrimination against white people so that you can reach some sort of equilibrium. I mean, for God's sakes, we're talking here about a judge who's looking at data, finding that a group of people who may more often than others be participating in gangs during the commission of their crimes needs to have their sentencing and their charges reduced, because those charges are being filed against them for their membership in gangs during the commission of their crime. What does it mean, equity, anti-whiteism in medicine, ladies and gentlemen? It means that your white child that needs cancer treatments can't get it because a similar number, a commensurate number of non-white people haven't had cancer treatments for their kids or for themselves. That's what equity means. In my opinion, I might be wrong. Make sure you go and ask one of the most radical anti-white professors that you can find who likes to wield a machete against those who aren't anti-white. Maybe ask them instead. That's what it means here. Giovanna Rogers and other anti-racist, anti-white police demonstrators protest outside the Wakefield Taylor Courthouse in Martinez, California. I assure everyone that I don't take this decision lightly in any way, Goldstein said in court. Bullshit, you anti-white POS. Folks, when they're looking at outcomes for punishment, for jobs, for medical treatments and the rest, and they're saying we need more of this group or more of that group, those people are collateral beneficiaries of the persecution, discrimination, and exploitation of Western kind of white people. In my opinion, it's in my opinion. When they go out there and they say not enough white people have been charged for gang participation in the commission of their crimes, and so everybody else who was charged with participation in a gang in the commission of their crime needs to have that blotted out from history. We're talking about the exploitation and discrimination and persecution of Western kind. They need somebody to be a beneficiary. Collateral beneficiaries everywhere you turn.